All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to write each quadratic equation in standard form given the roots. Remember that standard form is y equals ax squared plus bx plus c. You may have no fractions or decimals. So we'll start with the first one. We know our roots are x equals negative 8, x equals 5. Solving for 0, we go backwards. X minus 8 equals 0. Plus 8. X minus 5 equals 0. We write them out as a product. And then what you're going to do is you're going to FOIL them out or distribute them. You get x squared minus 5x plus 8x minus 40 equals 0. X squared plus 3x minus 40 equals 0. So that's the standard one when your zeros are not fractions. Now when they're fractions, working backwards, x equals 3 halves and x equals 1/4. Multiply by the denominator on both sides, so 2x equals 3, 4x equals 1. Subtract the values over to get them equal to 0. 2x minus 3 equals 0. 4x minus 1 equals 0. Multiply them out. 2x minus 3, 4x minus 1 equals 0 for the product. And then distribute 8x squared. 2x times negative 1 is a negative 2x. Minus 12x plus 3 equals 0. 8x squared minus 14x plus 3 equals 0. Next thing we're going to do is some factoring. To start off, we're going to pull out the greatest common factor. Always pull out or factor out your greatest common factor before you start. So the first one, greatest common factor is 7x. 7x times what gets me 35x squared? It's 5x. Excuse me, it's not a 5x. Let's switch those ones about. That again. Greatest common factor is 5x. I read that as a 14. This leaves me with the 7x minus 3. Can't factor this any further, so I'm done. Next one, I'm going to do the box method on this one. Your first term, x squared, goes here. Your last term, 32, goes here. What we do is we take a times c, multiply these together, and I get 32. What factors of 32 add up to be a negative 12? Well, to start off, factors of 32 are 1 and 32, 2 and 16, 8 and 4. That one works. Since this is a product that's positive, these both have to be negative, so I'm going to put negative 8x, negative 4x. Doesn't matter, because wherever you put these, negative 4, negative 8, if you switch them, they still add up to be a negative 12. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to factor out by grouping, essentially. Factor this way. So the common factor between x squared and negative 8x is an x. What times this x gets you an x squared? X. What times this x gets you a negative 8x? Negative 8. What times this x gets you a negative 4x? A negative 4. Is negative 4 times a negative 8 a positive 32? It is. So my answer is x minus 4, parenthesis, x minus 8. Whatever is on the outside becomes your factors. All right. And jump to this problem. This one I'm going to do by factor by grouping because that does show up multiple times throughout. So factor by grouping, a group like this. I'm going to look at my first group and then I'm going to look at my second group. Factor that is common between 8x squared and 3x is a 3x. What times 3x gives me 18x squared is a 6x minus 1. Now, with factor by grouping, I'm going to have another set of parentheses, and I know that this parenthesis set and this parenthesis set have to match, so I'm going to put that 6x minus 1 here. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask myself, what times 6x and a negative 1 get me a 24x minus 4? Well, if I do a 4, is 4 times negative 1 also negative 4? It is, so I'm going to do a positive 4. Now, between these two groups, like I said, parentheses are the same, so I'm going to pull those out, and you get 6x minus 1, and then whatever is left over goes into the next parenthesis, so the first one is 3x, and that plus 4 drops right down in here. That's factor by grouping. Now, this last one is a method I'm going to do is what is called Broker's method. It's the gentleman who taught me it. But we're going to do the same thing. I have parentheses, It's like the box method, but a little bit different. I'm still going to take a times c. A times c is a negative 60, and I want to know what factors of negative 60 that are going to add to be a positive 7. So working out some numbers, 2 and 30, 3 and 20, and I'm just going to jump right down here to 5 and 12. 5 and 12 can get me a positive 7. Since the product is negative, one of these has to be negative. If I make 5 negative, negative 5 plus 12 is a positive 7. So these numbers just drop into the bottom or the back part of the parentheses sets. Now, the cool thing about this is 2x squared has really good factors. It's just 2x and x. But which one goes with which? You can play guess and check, or what we can do is you just drop it down in front. What we do is we now have a factor. The greatest common factor between these two is 1. The greatest common factor between these two is 2. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to divide out the greatest common factor. If I divide this by 2, I'm left with 2x minus 5 and x plus 6. If I remultiply this out, 2x squared, negative 5 times 6 is 30, and then 12 and negative 5 gets me a positive 7. I know I did it right. When you divide here, when you're solving for solutions, you would also divide the other side, and you only have to divide one parenthesis set, so when you divide the other side when it's set equal to 0, this does not become illegal. So now what we're going to do is we're going to move over to solving each equation. I'm going to run through a few of these examples. So we're going to start here with x squared minus 36 equals 0. So your first term is a, last term is c with no x. So I have a product of negative 36. And my middle term is 0. You got to add or subtract to get to 0. The factors of 36 that get me there are going to be a negative 6 and a positive 6. So quickly, I can jump to here of x minus 6 and x plus 6, set both equal to 0, and get x equals 6 and negative 6. This is the solving. That's your solutions. Make sure you plug them back in and see if they work as well. All right, I'm going to jump down here to C so I don't have to move too far. This one I'm going to do by box method. First, I'm going to look at a common factor. Is there a common factor? There is 2. So I'm left with 6x squared minus x minus 1 equals 0. Okay, so A, C, I get a negative 6. Factors of negative 6 that add up to be negative 1. So I'm going to be looking at my 2 and my 3. Factors of that add up to be negative 1 would be if this is a negative 3, positive 2. 2 times negative 3 is negative 6. 2 plus negative 3 is negative 1. Box method. 6x squared drops down in here. Negative 1 drops down in here. These two factors go in these boxes, so a 2x up here and a negative 3x down here, or if you want, you may switch them out. So pulling out, greatest common factor between 6x squared and a 2x is a 2x. What times 2x gets me 6x squared? 3x. What times 2x gets me 2x? A positive 1. What times 3x gets me a negative 3x? A negative 1. Is a negative 1 times a positive 1 negative 1? It is. So now I'm here at 2x minus 1 and 3x plus 1's product equals 0. 2x minus 1 equals 0. 3x plus 1 equals 0. Solving these out, add 1 divided by 2, x equals 1/2. Subtract 1 divided by 3, x equals negative 1/3. You must show me this step, you must show me this step, and you must show me these. These are my solutions, and there we go. If it's a real life problem like the bottom down there, then number 4, we will want to make sure that we work it out. All right, so jumping up over here to these two. B, I'm going to just factor out greatest common factor, see what's going on. Greatest common factor between 12x squared minus 18x equals 0 is 6x. 6x times what gets me 12x squared? 2x. What times 6x gets me negative 18x? Negative 3 equals 0. Now, I have two parts, can't factor any further, so just set each part equal to 0. X equals 0 there. Add the 3, 2x plus positive 3, so 2x equals 3. Divide by 2, x equals 3/2. So that's my solution, that's my solution. All right, last but not least, I got this one here. I'm going to add 72 to both sides, so I have 2x squared minus 24x plus 72 equals 0. Factor out of 2, x squared minus 12x plus 36 equals 0. I'm going to do this method here. This is an x, so I'm going to put an x in x here. A 1 times a 36 gives me 36. And what factors of 36 add up to be a negative 12? Negative 6, negative 6. So just drop those in the back. So x minus 6 equals 0. X minus 6 equals 0. X equals 6. And that's called a double root because it's the same number. Okay. Last but not least, we have a wonderful area here. She wants to increase her length and width by the same amount. What would dimensions be if she wants to double her area? Well, currently her area is 54. So if I double it, that would be 108. So if I want to double it, that means it's going to equal 108. Add by the same value, so it would be 6 plus x times 9 plus x. So multiplying these out, I'm going to switch these orders. X plus 6, x plus 9 equals 108. X squared plus 9x plus 6x plus 54 equals 108. X squared plus 15x minus 108 over at the same time as I combine this gives me a minus 54 equals 0. So what factors of 54 add up to be a positive 15? So 54 is divisible by 3 and 18. Negative, but I want to add a positive, so I'm going to be that one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring this down here. X minus 3, x plus 18 equals 0, x equals 3, and negative 18. Real life situation, the only one that works is 3. So add 3 to both sides. New dimensions. Nine and 12. So there we go. That's lesson for 4.3.